Hello, and welcome to another bonus episode of the It's the Pictures podcast. I'm your host, Max Colville, and today, following the last presidential debate, I'm going to spend some time with some upcoming movies. One you can watch right now in the comfort of your home on Amazon Prime, and that's the new Borat film. And it's actually called Borat Subsequent Movie Sequel, I think. It has many different names, actually, but we're going to go with that, or just call it Borat 2 for the sake of this podcast. I think the other film we're going to review is a theatrical release that's coming out to some theaters. I know Landmark Theaters is having the release of it, and it's called Synchronic. It's a science fiction film that made its debut at TIFF in 2019. It's played multiple festivals and is now finally coming out for bigger audiences to see it, and we'll certainly have more about its release when I get to reviewing that film. But we're going to start here with the Borat sequel. For those unfamiliar with the character of Borat, let me briefly explain that he's a creation of comedian Sacha Baron Cohen. Cohen is not just a comedian, but a very entertaining actor. You can see him also in the Trial of Chicago 7, which we reviewed on our episode 100 previously. And he has many different characters, and Borat is one of his characters that he's made into a film. I think the other character he in his range of personas that he made into a film is Bruno, although I don't remember that film quite as well as Borat. Anyways, the first film saw Borat coming to America, and he's a journalist, and he's trying to make a documentary of his real life interactions with Americans. And at the time it came out, 2006, this was really crazy, right? He goes up to people, and I guess his character Borat wasn't as well known as it is today, and he gets people to say the most damning things on camera, right? Like things that you wouldn't think anybody would normally say unless they felt completely comfortable. And that's what one of the abilities I think Sacha Baron Cohen has, is that he has this ability to make people comfortable to say just about anything that's on their mind. I just think it's hilarious the way that he just goes into characters and lets people say what they're really thinking, right? And you just watch it and you're like, I can't believe these people actually say these things in real life. It's just hard to imagine. And I think that's the biggest strength of the original film, is that it's not like a fully scripted movie. Certainly there's some things that are scripted in the film, but his interactions with a lot of people, I can't imagine were very scripted at all, and just absolutely wild to hear people react that way. I mean, Cohen's been doing this for a lot of years, and he had like a series on Showtime that ran like a year or something, like a year or two ago, and he was back to his old antics with new characters, trying to get people in situations, and it's just where they would say the damnedest things. And I'm happy to report that he has accomplished that again in Borat 2. So I'm sure you've heard the news on Twitter. It's not necessarily a spoiler since it was all over front page Twitter news, but he ended up doing one of his famous interviews with former Mayor Rudy Giuliani, and let's just say Giuliani was in a compromising position, and that was pretty wild to see on Twitter. But the movie is concerned with really capturing the mindset of Americans in 2020, and the story follows Borat once again, and he became like an exile when he went back to his country because the documentary was received so poorly by his people in Kazakhstan, the fictional country. And he has given a new task: go to America and make friends with Vice President Michael Pence, and gifting him like a monkey or something, right? And the crux of that is, by the time he gets to America, he doesn't have the monkey anymore, but his daughter, who has followed him to America, is with him instead. And his daughter's played by a new actress Her name is Maria Bakalova, and she was a great find for this film. She's absolutely hilarious and is able to get people to say the darndest things just as easily as Cohen is. And their relationship is just really funny, and they use that father-daughter relationship for many instances throughout the sequel. Obviously, I'm not going to go into too many of the hilarious bits, but it's very easy to say that Borat 2 contains some of the absolute funniest moments of 2020 in film. While there hasn't been that many comedies given the year that we've had, I still think that Borat 2 would be high above many of the ones that could have possibly come out. It's just some of its scenes are absolutely iconic, and like how funny and unbelievable they are. And then on a turn of a dime, he can make it seem like, wow, he's capturing just like the absolute hatred of this country, and just some people who just say, they say the darndest things, right? It's just amazing what people will say in certain situations, and certainly there's other things where you're like, you wonder how exactly he got the interviews he got, or the conversations him and his co-star Maria were able to get into. And it just, I don't know, just maybe even the filming of it fascinates me. Like I love to see like even a documentary like of how he managed to do it, or just like more stories into how he manages to put these things together when he's a pretty well known guy, but he just gets to merge into these personas and people just don't recognize him, I guess. But the Borat film was filmed, I guess, pretty quietly over 2020, and you can see throughout the course of the movie that it takes place at different periods of the year, and certainly coronavirus plays a part in the movie. And I'm just surprised he was able to get it done and finish it, and nobody knew about it until maybe about a month before it was finished. There was rumblings that he like filmed it in secret, and it's just crazy that a production like this could happen in secret, and he was able to do all this and get it done. I know I'm repeating myself because I said I thought that was fascinating, but I do. But good news, the Borat sequel is now available for Amazon Prime watchers. It was launched early on Thursday night, and by the time you hear this podcast, it should be available in the Amazon Prime store. I highly recommend you give it a look. You'll be laughing hysterically. It's some of the hardest I've laughed in a long time. The other film I'm going to review is a film that is opening up theatrically, like I said at the top. It's funny, the directors have made a statement, their directors being Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, and they thought it's best that you see the movie in whatever way is safest for you, because the film is now just opening theatrically in a bunch of venues. And of course, eventually it will come out on VOD platforms or to own physically. And I guess they're just making a statement that they want their fans to be safe and watch it through the comfort of their home. And I figured I'd relay that before I start the review. You might have seen films by Benson and Moorhead, such as Spring or The Endless. They've created a niche for themselves in the science fiction film area. And I didn't see those two previous films, so I wasn't wrapped up into the hype of a new film by them. But I was interested in when I heard about it in Toronto. I just didn't get to see it, and I'm glad I got to see it now. And the premise is that these two paramedics, played by Jamie Dornan of 50 Shades of Grey fame and Anthony Mackie, who you might remember from the MCU movies, both of them are paramedics in New Orleans, and their lives are forever changed when they discover that there's these horrific deaths thanks to a new designer drug. And so the movie, so you're wondering where science fiction comes in, right? And from the first frame, it's shown that this couple is taking this drug called Synchronic, and when they do, they are transported to another world. And it's just, both of them aren't transported to the same world, they're different places, right? And they end up having some kind of effects happen to them in the real world, and it's kind of bizarre, right? And certainly events happen in the film that bring Anthony Mackie's character and Jamie Dornan's character closer to Synchronic than they'd probably want to be. But I guess my problem is, and you'll see it when you watch the film, is that the film holds your hand at every revelation, right? There's no thinking about why is this happening or what exactly is going on here. Anthony Mackie's character really explains it to you in great detail. It's almost like he's recording like a YouTube tutorial on how to watch the movie. And at one point, that can be fascinating, but when you explain all the rules of your science fiction movie, then there's nothing left except for the performances and the characters. And unfortunately, there's not too much there here in Synchronic, because outside the two leads, everyone else feels superfluous, right? They just seem like they don't really matter. And I'll tell you, like, maybe 60% through the film, Anthony Mackie's character is experimenting with Synchronic himself, and he ends up going to these, like, wild places, and he ends up going to this place where there's just these people who absolutely want to destroy him and kill him, and it's absolutely distressing to see the effects of that and what happens to his character at that point, right? There's an overarching plot for him, not to mention for his partner played by Doran, but I think that him actually going to these worlds is the most interesting part of the movie, not anything else that exists within the framework, which is too bad, because I'd certainly tell you that the second half of the film picks up, and I was much more interested in that. I found myself kind of like clock watching at the first half and wondering when things were going to pick up, and thankfully I can tell you that the second half of the movie is significantly better, and I really enjoyed the alternate world aspects of it as opposed to anything else. And so when I'm coming up with a review for it, I won't tell you that it's absolutely skippable, because it's not. I thought it was entertaining to a point, and there's certainly aspects that I enjoyed about it. I just think that it's a little flat what's there, and I personally would say, like, it comes recommended, but certainly your mileage may vary. If you're a big fan of science fiction, then you'll probably get more out of this than somebody who just stumbles upon this film, that's for sure. And that is Synchronic, and it's being distributed by Well Go USA, and it's being released in theaters on October 23rd. So that is the two reviews. We had Borat, which comes highly recommended, and Synchronic that has a soft recommend. Both of them should be out, one theatrically, one on Amazon Prime Video by the time you hear this podcast. If you haven't already, please know that I have a new newsletter out. It's called It's the Pictures, and it's through Substack, and I'd love it if you guys and girls check it out and give it a read. I've already released the second newsletter, so I hope you give that a try and enjoy it. And what else? You can follow us on Twitter at It's the Pick Pod. I'm at MH Colville. John is at John L. Gilpatrick. You can find our podcast episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you search your podcast. Spotify, right? Did I already say that one? Probably. We'll be there. Please like, share, review us. All right, well, we'll have another episode for you coming up soon. Take care. Thank you. Bye.